Okay, so you know how we see those world maps, right?
Yeah.
The ones with all the countries colored in.
Mm.
What if, like, instead of the usual colors, they were shaded based on,
Okay.
like, how many men there are compared to women in each country?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of like a heat map, right? Showing you where the guys are and where it's mostly women.
I like that.
So you sent us this amazing map and analysis, and in this deep dive, we are going to try to figure out what's going on.
In the data skies, we take our flight. Trends and numbers come to life. Colors and charts, they dance and play. Showing truth in a visual way. In GenderDecoded, we uncover truths and stories like no other. In the data waves we find the secret maps of humankind.
We have this really cool world map that we're going to be referencing. Basically, it uses color to show the balance between men and women in every country around the world.
Oh, wow.
It's like, a visual snapshot of humanity, really.
Yeah.
It makes you think.
Definitely.
So when you glance at this map, one of the first things that jumps out is, the Gulf states.
Oh, right.
They're like super red, like on fire red,
Yeah.
which means there are way more men than women there. What's the reason for that?
Right. So if we think about the economies of the Gulf states, they're largely fueled by the oil industry,
Well, yeah,
which
that-
draws in a massive workforce, and mostly men from other countries. So you end up with these ratios that are like sometimes exceeding 105 men for every 100 women.
Wow. 105 to 100.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
It's a huge difference, yeah. And then that kind of imbalance ends up having this ripple effect, on everything from family structures to social dynamics in the region.
It makes you wonder, like, what daily life is even like in those places with that
Yeah.
kind of difference. But then you look at some other areas like China and India.
Hmm.
They've also got more men, though not quite as dramatic as the Gulf states. What's going on there?
Yeah, so in these places, it's more about cultural factors coming into play.
Okay.
In many of these societies, for centuries, there's been this deeply ingrained view that sons are more valuable than daughters, and this is often linked to, things like inheritance laws, carrying on the family name.
Yeah.
And this preference has had a long-lasting impact, influencing family size and sadly even leading to practices that favor boys over girls.
Right. It's a really complex issue. It makes you think about how these traditions, they really, really have this long reach, It's fascinating and sad. But then there's this real twist when you look at Eastern Europe and the Baltics.
Mm-hmm.
The map, it's showing more women there. Now, why is that region sort of going against the global trend?
Right, yeah. Well, one way to look at it is through the lens of overall health and well-being.
Okay.
Studies show that men in these areas, unfortunately, they face higher mortality rates. It's a mix of things. Some health risks are just more common among men, and then sometimes, lifestyle choices can also play a role. And so this all leads to a situation where women actually outnumber men in the population, and that's quite different from what we see in many other parts of the world.
It's amazing, isn't it, how this map just reveals these hidden connections between all these different things like health and cultural ideas. And then there's Greenland. Greenland, it's like an island of men.
Yeah, Greenland, it's definitely a unique case.
What's happening there?
Well, I think you have to consider the environment there. It's harsh, remote, often challenging.
Right.
And it seems these conditions, they tend to attract a predominantly male population, maybe people looking for work in tough industries or maybe drawn to this sense of adventure.
Yeah.
But it does show how even geography can influence these gender balances.
That makes sense. Now, looking at the bigger picture, it's actually kind of encouraging to see, big chunks of the world, North America, Europe, Australia, parts of Africa with a ratio that's more balanced, closer to equal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is that?
Well, in those regions, you typically see a ratio that's around 100 men for every 100 women.
Okay.
And this kind of balance often goes hand in hand with things like stable demographic patterns, developed economies, and also social structures that promote, greater equality.
So it's like this map. It's telling us a story about a lot more than just the numbers. It's economics, culture, health, even adventure. So what does this all mean for us? Like, what's the takeaway for the average person listening?
Well, I think the big takeaway is that these global gender ratios, they're not just some random thing.
Yeah.
They're shaped by this really complex web of factors, migration patterns, deeply ingrained cultural beliefs, health disparities, even the environment itself.
Right.
And understanding these patterns, it has implications for policymakers, especially when they're thinking about labor markets, social planning, population dynamics, all these big picture issues.
It really does make you think about all the forces that are shaping our world, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So as we wrap up today, I want to leave everyone listening with something to ponder, something to think about.
Okay.
We've seen these global trends, but what role do individual choices, our own choices, and the structures of society play in shaping gender dynamics in the places where we live? And how might those factors change in the years to come? Just something to think about, keep exploring, keep asking those questions. And thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.